Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Black Logic. So this 68% of Black voters say they're backing the Democrats in the congressional race this year. And why is that 68%, or rather the 25%, some numbers say 69%, but nevertheless, let's say roughly 25% of Black Americans are sitting in the middle as moderate, sitting in the middle as what we like to believe are independent. And why is 68% so significant? Because this is the one few times in history that Black Americans have not been in the upper 80 percentile. Usually around 85% or more of Black Americans have stated they were going to vote for the Democratic Party, but so much has happened. And believe it or not, whether you like the orange man or not, I didn't vote for him, just for FYI. He has revealed a lot of things, both good and bad, with his administration as well as the Democratic administrations as well. And this is very important. 68% of Black voters say they're backing the Democrats in the congressional race this year. 8% say they're backing the Republican Party, and 25%, which is basically 1 in 4 of us, looked at the poster dead in the eye and said, I'm not sure yet. I might vote for somebody else entirely. And this is according to Pew Research Center surveying Black Americans from July 6th through the 12th of this year. And the middle number, that 25%, is the most important political number in Black America right now, because that's not a base, that's a lock. That is what we call leverage. This is the thing that we have been stumping the ground, fighting for. Influencers online who've been for the foundation of Black American family, those who are descendants of enslaved people in this country. No matter if you take on the term or not, if your ancestors were enslaved in this country, then you are by lineage a foundational Black American or African American, whatever you want to label yourself. But again, we try not to confuse one another, because we understand that when you label yourself an African American, that's not just stating that 1,000 years back there your lineage derived from Africa, because then again, everybody's from Africa, is it not? But you don't call a Jamaican African Jamaican. You don't call someone who may be from one of the Black groups out of the Caribbean some sort of African. So this is why the term foundational Black American has been taking a lot of heat, both positive and negative. And a lot of people know I'm just an African American. Well, what country in Africa? Oh, well, I trace my roots back to West Africa. That is a region. That's not a country. Well, I have a mixed amalgamations of different African countries. These terms can be very, very confusing, whereas though our Jamaican, our Grenadian brothers and sisters who also derive from the continent of Africa do not state that they are then African Jamaicans, right? Because they had an ethnogenesis and now they're just Jamaican. Just as well, we are Black Aborigines here in America, so we are foundational Black Americans, and some people even say Native Black Americans. Whatever the terminology you want to use, I'm talking about you this morning. See, this leverage is very, very important because it's taken quite some time. And we need to pull the full picture, not just one channel's version, because depending on where you get your news this week, you heard 2 completely different stories about the very same poll. Now, what I'm showing right here, and I know you guys on your cell phones, you may not see this, so I'm going to read it to the best of my ability. It states here that Black voters tap the brakes on Democrats as the party lurches left. Fox News power rankings show only 69% of Black Americans say they support a Democrat in their district, down 21 points from the Biden's 2020 share of the Black vote. In Michigan, far-left Senate nominee Abdul Al-Saeed is running 18 points behind Biden's Black voter support, and the race just moved to toss-up, okay? And here's another word of how 2 things are occurring at once. Black people are shifting independent, not so much Democrat, and definitely not so much conservative. But listen to this.
White Texans receive 1 member of Congress for every 445,000 residents. If you're Hispanic, it takes about 1.4 million residents for that same representation. If you are Black, it takes 2 million. In this proposal, a Hispanic Texan has 1/3 the political value of a white Texan under this plan, and a black Texan 1/5. It would take 3 Hispanics to equal the representation of 1 white Texan and 5 black Texans to equal the value of 1 white Texan.
So that's still going on as well. So all of this information I'm going to give you guys here this morning is building a story. Because if you turn on conservative media like your Fox News, and I believe, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, for quite some time, Black Americans never looked at Fox News. We've always looked at the CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC. We looked at everything except Fox News. And here's my thing. I encourage you, I implore you to look at it all, because somewhere between all the lies of the left and the right lies the truth. But nevertheless, if you turn on conservative media and the headline was Black voters are abandoning the Democratic Party. That was the red state, and this came out roughly about 2 days ago on August 18th. They ran a version back in May this year that a slow shift among Black voters is opening the door for Republicans. Now, even though we've seen the so-called Democratic Socialists winning, and that's because Black people have been getting around this sort of new, I guess, political shift in the Democratic Party of Democratic Socialists. But the framing is this. This so-called dam that we've been upholding within the Democratic Party is breaking. And we are walking across the aisles in droves. Now, if you flip that over to the other side, progressive outlets look at the same numbers and say, relax. Black voters are still the most loyal Democratic bloc in the country. 68% to 8%, nothing to see here. And the base is solid. And here's the thing, family, both of them are handling you a half truth so they can sell you a feeling. One wants you excited, the other wants you comfortable. So let's do what the national media won't do, right? Let's read the whole scoreboard here, because they're only going to give you that this continuous fight for decade after decade of Black people mostly voted for Democrats, and the only successful of us all, and those people who Sambo dance, go over to the conservative party. Now, here's fact one. Black voters are not flocking to the Republican Party. Look at the actual Republican number in 2020. About 8% of the Black voters backed Trump back in 2024. That ticked up to about 15%. But this year in Pew's research, that is, midterm survey, Republican support among Black voters is back down to 8%. This is not a stampede across the aisles, no less. The Pew is careful to point something out. Those 2024 gains were mostly people changing their minds. They were driven by who showed up to vote and who stayed home. That turnout is not just those people who showed up. And it's definitely not a conversion of Black people coming from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. So that Black exodus to the GOP headline, oh man, that's overcooked. Fact two, and this is where the other side is lying to you, that does not mean that the Democratic base is solid, because 68% is not 90%. For 2 generations, Democrats have counted on Black voters in the high 80s and low 90s. When 1 in 4 Black voters tells a pollster, I'm undecided or I'm looking elsewhere, and when a second poll, active vote taken from the late July into early August, shows Democrat support among Black voters sliding from 71% down to 61% in about 5 weeks. And this is not a solid base. This is a warning light on the dashboard. That's the check engine light coming on, and both drivers are pretending they don't even see it.
We're about 2 months out from the next election, and a new Emerson poll just came out, and it's showing how Americans feel about some of the top issues facing our country. I'm Sierra Hignite with Fox 59 and CBS 4 News here in Indianapolis. This poll also shows who's looking more favorable ahead of the presidential election. Of the 1,000 people polled, 32% of those identified as Democrats, 33% as Republicans, and 34% as independent or other. And overall, the numbers show President Trump's approval rating currently sitting at about 40%. When asked about the U.S. military action against Iran, 49% of voters say they oppose. The economy ranked as the top issue for voters, which includes things like jobs, inflation, and taxes. Threats to democracy came in second, with healthcare coming in a close third. Now, the survey asked a series of hypothetical 2028 presidential candidate matchups. It included the top 2 Republican primary candidates, that's Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It matched them with the top 5 Democratic candidates, which currently are Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, John Ossoff, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and former Vice President Kamala Harris. Rubio is outperforming Vance currently on multiple ballot tests, while Buttigieg, Ossoff, and Newsom are performing the strongest of the Democratic candidates. Now, get this. This poll also asked voters if they felt the actions of the killer of the United Healthcare CEO were considered acceptable or unacceptable. Take a look at these results. While 63% said they felt they were completely unacceptable, 11% said they were unsure, 9% said that the actions were somewhat acceptable, and almost 8% said they were completely acceptable.
Now, before we, I guess, take a step further here, I do want to find this clip. This is one of the guys who basically changed the tide of his content. His name is Ricky Manor, and I've spoken with him plenty of times. I've done some interviews with him. And, you know, he was far right. He's still far right, no less. But the way that he speaks about certain things have changed. His ideology has shifted to foundational Black American, even though he's still on the right side. But I want to gather this quick short that he did that I thought was very powerful. And I want you guys to hear it. If I can find it, if you guys can bear with me here. I want to make sure I find this clip, because he said some very powerful things on this clip. Give me 1 second. It's a short, and I believe that it holds relevance. Let me see if I can find this. Give me 1 second here. I'm just gonna go to his channel. Give me 1 second. I think it was a really important clip, because I think this is kind of the mindset of the Democratic Party and how they push these things to foundational Black Americans. Let me see here. I believe, is this it right here? Give me 1 second. Let me see if this is it. Yeah, this is the clip right here. I think this was very powerful. You guys tell me what you think of this clip right here. Because one of her first words here was being an immigrant, okay? I'm just providing context. Her first comment was being an immigrant, okay? And again, if you don't watch his content, that's perfectly fine. But this clip right here, I think tells the story of the Democratic Party. And unfortunately, a lot of Black Americans who really need to listen to this, because the Democrats hasn't been doing anything undercover. This is right in our faces, and we keep falling for the trick bag.
Being an immigrant, people often think immigration is not a Black issue. It is.
No, the fuck, it's not. Before I go in, I gotta ask, how come every leftist issue becomes a Black issue? Homosexuality, Black issue. Transgenderism, Black issue. The war in Palestine, Black issue. Fat phobia, Black issue. Now illegal immigration, Black issue. Everything is a Black issue until Black people start demanding tangibles and recognizing false alliances. Then Black men get told by these same lefties that they're being misogynistic and xenophobic. And I wonder if that has to do anything with how these lefties love to play Black women against Black men. Or it could be how these lefties love to use victim-minded Black men hating Black women to make everybody else's issues Black issues. Before ICE started rounding up you Black immigrants, you were real quick to separate yourselves from foundational Black Americans. You were real quick to say that you were not Black and proudly wave the flags of your home countries that you fled here from. You called us dirty, lazy, and told us how you work harder than we do. Yeah, it's easy to say all of those things when you're getting government handouts from the American taxpayers. Donald Trump put all of that to an end, and now you're being sent back to your home countries. So if your work ethic is superior to that of Black Americans, then why does that reflect in your home countries? Huh? Why are you so upset that you're being forced to go back to your home countries that you were so proud to be from when you fled to America? Huh? Now you're claiming to be Black and saying that we're all in this together. Where was that energy when the Democrats made you their model minority so you can frown down upon us? Huh? How many crimes did you Black immigrants commit and then get documented for being Black Americans? Huh? Go back to your home countries or fight the corrupt governments that forced you to leave there. Don't fight my government that's forcing you to leave here. I am not going out there protesting for you to stay in my country so you can continue to call me dirty and lazy. I actually voted for your removal. Seeing you getting put in those handcuffs and begging the same people that you sided with against us makes my dick hard. Now look at who's dirty and who's lazy, and now look at who's upset about being sent back to their home country because the people there are so clean and hard working, right? And what is your issue with black people? You flee your home countries to get away from black people, then you come to America just to complain about the black people here. Say what you want to say about me, but I have something you will never have: a passport, a birth certificate, and a voter registration card. Now add that to your list of reasons to hate American black people. And where are the white liberals when you black immigrants are being vulgarly racist towards black Americans since they claim they hate racism so much? I guess they're only against racism when it comes to white conservatives and not you black immigrants who parrot their talking points. Hell, if I wasn't old and out of shape, I would join ICE my damn self.
Now, some of you may not agree with the delivery of it, but I think the message was powerful. And this is, believe me, this channel here is about truth. This is not to push anyone to be a Democrat. This is not to push anyone to be an independent. And this is not to push anyone to be a conservative. The real story, the one that lives in the tension between the left version and the right version, is this: Black America is not switching teams. Unfortunately, and I'm not saying switch to conservative or even switch to independent. I'm just saying our mindsets need to switch. Policy over party. Who has the best policies if we're not going to grow a grassroots candidate? Who has the best policies for Black America? See, Black America is literally checking out. And a disengaged up for grabs voter is worth more than a loyal one. That 25% that is sitting in the middle as moderate, that's sitting in the middle as independent, because a loyal vote gets taken for granted. See, when are we totally going to adopt the mindset and the ideology that our vote has to be earned? Not that it's given, because we have to put some tangibles on accountability. Because this is the Black Logic lane. Ask the question we ask about every story: who benefits, who's being ignored? Because for decades, the Black vote has run on loyalty. We deliver 90% election after election, no matter what's actually being done for us. And what does loyalty without leverage get us? It gets us taken for granted by the party we vote for over and over and over again, and written off by the party that we don't. It's almost like we're in this tight conundrum that we vote Democrat because we believe that conservative party is inherently racist. Not that every conservative politician is racist, but we would like to believe that the majority of them are, and they may be. But I implore you to look beneath the veil, and that the Democratic Party is just as equally racist, if that's your belief. They just talk to us nicer. They just stand on our side and pat us on the back and that a boy. We become the one constituency in America that both sides feel safe ignoring. One because they already have us. The other because they've given up on us. That's not power, ladies and gentlemen. That is the worst seat at the table. Compare that to how other blocks play it. Voting blocks that swing, that make you sweat, that might vote for you or may even stay home. Those are the ones that gets courted. They get the phone calls, they get the town halls, they get the policy written with their name on it. Why is it that whether it be Republican or Democrat, they always come into the hair salons, the barber shops, the corner stores? But when we see the vast majority of these other groups, whites, Hispanics, and Asians, they go to town halls. They provide lunches, not just the James Clyburn fish fries. They get the policy written with their name on it, like the Anti-Asian Protection Act. And they just covered it over with the COVID-19, but it had Asian all through the lines. And I'm not hating, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just asking, can we get what they got? Because again, they get the policies written with their name on it. Politicians spin where the vote is in. And right now, the data says that the Black vote is more in play than it's been in generation. And that is a good thing, because we have 25% Black Americans like, wait a minute here. I don't trust neither damn one of these parties, but only if we understand exactly what we're holding. We can't just stay in the middle. That's why that's why we should not only believe, but we should definitely contextualize and criticize policy over party, especially if we're not homegrowing our own grassroots candidates and supporting them with the Black American dollar. We keep talking about we have this buying power, this is the economic power of $2 trillion, even though that includes debt to a certain degree. But when are we going to use that buying power to actually support power of our own candidates? And I don't care what color the candidates are, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care. I don't care what race, what ethnic. If they're going to do something for our community at large, then we should be behind those candidates. I don't care if they're left, right, center, Democratic, Socialist, Republican, Socialist. That's kind of like a contradiction, no less. But nevertheless, I don't care. Because here's a trap, and I need you to hear me. Being disengaged is not the same thing as being empowered. If that 25% just sits home in November and nobody learns a single damn lesson, both parties shrug, they move on. And the folks who stayed home get the exact same negligence that they were even protesting. Sitting out at this particular moment, because of that 25%, really isn't leverage. Because I'll be quite frank with you. I'm not going to take on the home ownership that Michelle Obama was stating that if you don't vote, you don't have any voice. And I want to beat this drum so damn hard so everyone understands. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a republic according to the Constitution. Once you vote, you have no voice. Someone within states, well, once I voted, I showed my voice. But then again, you have no power. Because what did you ask for? What did you request? What did they state? What are the promises in black and white? Did you see what President Trump did? This guy wrote an enormous amount of executive orders showing that there's power in the presidency, even for a temporary moment. And some of those things actually got signed into law, but for just a moment, those executive orders had power. And he was adhering to the request of his base. Sitting out is surrender with extra steps. But we have to get something for our vote, because real leverage looks like showing up and organized with a list and making both parties compete for it. It looks like candidate questionnaires, put it in writing. What will you do on jobs, on lending, on policy before you get my vote? What are you going to do to increase the funding in our schools, in our community centers to get our kids off the block? It looks like block endorsements that can be moved. It looks like voting all the way down the ballot, school board, DA, city council, the offices that actually touch our streets, not just the president every 4 years. And it looks like showing up in the primaries where the real choices get made before you even see the November ballot. That's the difference between being a base and being a power broker. Stop being a base for the Democratic Party. Stop being a base for the Republican Party and start being a power broker. And recent polling analysis even shows what's driving the folks who are fired up this year. Many say cuts to food assistance and the squeeze on their household budget are motivating them more than any slogan. So the energy there is the question here. Either we aim it or we waste it. Now, I popped this up just for context, ladies and gentlemen, because I want you guys to hear a little bit of this.
Paulina Carr is in downtown El Paso with what was presented.
The new care.com makes it easier than ever to find the care you need.
It was an emotional day in the courtroom today as photographs of one of the victims, Katia Rosales, was presented.
Okay, that's totally the wrong clip. They replaced it. But nevertheless, we had some, I had some figures for you guys. So I guess when I refreshed here, but we'll look at these numbers they have on the screen. Now, the number of Black adults identifying or leaning Democrat dropped from 77% in 2020 to 66% in 2023, while 12% to 17% of Black adults identify as or lean Republican, according to a 2025 poll just last year. So now we're at 68% that a lot of these people are voting for Democrat and 8% are voting for Republican, while we have roughly 25% that are sitting in the middle. And believe me, when I tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, this is very, very powerful. This is what you call leverage. And this is where it gets bigger than one election. Black America is holding two levers of power right now, and we are barely pulling either one. Lever number one is the ballot, that sort of persuadable block we just talked about. Lever number two is the wallet, because in 2026, black power in this country is projected roughly, as I stated earlier, $2.1 trillion. And that came from the Pew Research for Economic Growth, and they grabbed that report out of the University of Georgia. And those are the same numbers that Nelson uses, 2.1 trillion. So if Black America were its own country, just think about it. If Black America, if we were our own country, that spending would rank in the top 10 economies on the entire planet. Now, we know China at number 2, no less. There is something very important that I just want to go over when it comes to this part right here, so you guys can understand what I'm getting at.
The numbers show President Trump's approval rating currently sitting at about 40%. When asked about the U.S. military action against Iran, 49% of voters say they oppose. The economy ranked as the top issue for voters, which includes things like jobs, inflation, and taxes. Threats to democracy came in second, with healthcare coming in a close third. Now, the survey asked a series of hypothetical 2028 presidential candidate matchups. It included the top 2 Republican primary candidates, that's Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
So when you think about it, ladies and gentlemen, in the top 10 economies on the entire planet, and this is bigger than most nations on earth, think about that. There's over, 190 some odd countries, and we rank as 45 to 50 million people inside of America, and we rank in the top 10 of economies. Now put those two levers side by side, $2.1 trillion in economic muscle, and a voting bloc that both parties are nervous about for the first time in years. Because here we are at 25% undecided. That is enormous generational power. And I applaud us, but we have to do something with this. Now, for the last 2 generations, that's 200 years, we've been voting Democrat after Democrat after Democrat ever since the 1960s, ever since the Civil Rights Act was signed. And we are letting it sit in the drawer while we argue on the internet about which team jersey to wear. Oh, we can talk about those disrespectful, denigrating tethers, not just illegal immigrants, but the tether class within legal and illegal immigration. Well, we can talk about them day in and day out. We can talk about Sambos dancing for their political masses. We can talk about it all. But here's the diagnosis. Our problem was never that we don't have power. Our problem is that we keep giving it away for free. The vote to one party out of pure habit, the dollar to companies that don't hire us, don't bank with us, and don't respect us. Power you give away for free is not power, it's a donation. And the bill is coming due right now. So when the parties squabble over our loyalty, look at what's actually landing on Black kitchen tables. Black unemployment hit 7.5% this August, the highest since October of 2021. Economists have a name for that. The canary in the coal mine, because Black joblessness usually spikes first, does it not? Before the whole economy turns. That's not an abstraction. That's your cousin hours getting cut. That's you getting laid off. That's your teenage son or daughter not getting a job. That's the plant slowing down. That's the layoff nobody sent you a warning about. So when a politician of either party comes to your church, your barbershop, your cookout in the next 10 weeks asking for your vote, the question is not, which team are you on? And here's the thing, why are they asking us damn questions? They should be answering our questions. The question is, what are you going to do about 7.5%? What's your plan for the wealth gap? For the small businesses that can't get a loan? And if they can't answer that, they're not going to get our vote for free. Habit is not a platform. And fear of the other guy is not a platform, because you know they're going to try to fearmonger black people in voting for the Democratic Party and tell us how bad the Republicans are. They do all with these fear-mongering campaigns and commercial. The Republican Party supported Elon Musk and putting up his data mining centers near black towns, which would intoxify the water. And now black people in these small podunk towns don't have clean water to drink. Ladies and gentlemen, our people have been hurting ever since we've been in this country, ever since we founded the country, ever since we built the foundation of this country. So we're unfortunately used to the struggle. And we're also used to coming out of the struggle. We're also used to striving. We're also used to thriving. So we shouldn't be fear-mongering into voting for one party. What party is going to do something for us? So here's the big problem, family. Or here's the big picture, rather. The headlines this week wanted you to pick a feeling. Okay, a feeling, an emotion. Panic if you lean right. Comfort if you lean left. But the truth is in the middle, where it usually is. Black voters aren't abandoning anybody, and black voters aren't locked in for anybody either. 1 in 4 of us is standing out in the open field like, holding two of the most powerful levers in American life right now. The ballot and $2.1 trillion, and both parties are betting we won't figure it out and how we're going to use this power and leverage together. Let's prove them wrong. Not by staying home, because I did that, right? I didn't like President Trump. I didn't like what Kamala saying, because she was going to infuse America with more illegal immigrations and do all sorts of things to give more rights and have the LGBT community be more of a protected class than they already are, but not having Black Americans be a protected class. So yeah, I was the ones you can call out names to. The reason why she lost, I don't care. This is about power. This is about comprehension. This is about critical thinking. This is about understanding the political landscape. Because right now we're at 25%. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, with each way that 25% votes, that party will win. So I wonder, with these new metrics, I wonder with this analytical overview of where Black voters sit, what party is going to come to Black America with a tangible, supportive plan of our community? Because if it's policy over party, then that's who I'm voting for. We either be Democrat, independent, conservative, Democratic socialist. I don't care. Again, this is about power. This ain't about party lines. This ain't about being a constituent of a party that MLK pushed in the 1960s. Unfortunately, our great brother is dead and gone. And he did a wonderful thing while he was here. And some people will even argue that, but he did a great thing. But it was all under the guise of evil, because at every wake and turn, what we see now is that Civil Rights Act wasn't just for Black people. It was for everybody. Let's prove them wrong. Not by staying home, not by trading one master for another. I'm not saying, well, the Democrats been our masters for so long, let's change over to the Republican masters. No, I'm not stating that. Again, beating the drum, kicking the dead horse down the road. Policy over party. And this is by getting registered, getting organized, and walking into this election like people who know exactly what we are worth and know exactly the power that we hold. Because the numbers say we are worth a great deal. We need to make these damn politicians on the left or the right and otherwise earn it. Every single time, not just elections, not just in the primaries, not just in the local districts, not just on the state level. Because then they just say Byron Donalds won the governor primary, was it Georgia, Mississippi? I don't know where he won it at, but Byron Donald never supported Black Americans. And by the way, don't forget his lineage is from the Caribbean, no less. And he's totally against reparations, by the way. Just for context there. So if you don't know your registration status or you want nonpartisan tools to hold both parties accountable, I point you to the free resources at the end of this video. Now, drop it in the comments. Are you in that 68% that are supporting the Democratic Party, or are you in that 8% that are reporting the Republican Party, or are you in that most powerful 25% like policy over party? Tell me why. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with somebody who needs to hear the truth behind all the BS media headlines. You guys have a great and wonderful day.